All right, hey there guys, welcome in to another episode of The Collectors. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Chad Starbuck, and before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. I just want to let you know you can always follow along with me on Instagram at I Remember When Vintage, and obviously here on the YouTube show you can follow along with The Collectors. And if you haven't done so already, be sure and hit that subscribe button down below, and if you like today's show or any of the episodes, be sure and hit that like button and share it out with your friends and family. Now, I've been collecting and buying and selling vintage items for probably about 10 years now. And over that period of time, the vintage market has just exploded, it seems like. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably seeing a lot of the same things. Now, you think about those estate sales that you used to go to 10 years ago. You probably didn't have to wait in line. You'd probably head right in, find the items that you were looking for, come away with a nice haul. Now, today, those same estate sales, you've probably got to wait in a line before you even get inside. There are certainly just crowds of people. That item that you were probably looking for quite possibly is gone. The vintage marketplace has just taken off over the last couple of years, and it's certainly a lot wilder, a lot crazier than it used to be. But I think that's for a good thing. There's a lot more people out there, but then the marketplace has grown as well, which gives everybody a great chance to be able to find the items that they want. So let's go ahead and jump into our show today. My guest today is Lucas Kappler of Turn Treasure Vintage. Now, Lucas is primarily known for his jewelry, but he certainly collects and buys and sells a lot of other unique and even weird items as well. So let's go ahead and join our conversation with Lucas Kappler. All right, Lucas, hey, welcome. Welcome into the show. Thanks for being on The Collectors.
Thank you. I'm excited to do this. It's fun.
Now, Lucas, I was thinking back as I was kind of putting my notes together. We've known each other for a while. Obviously, we both reside here in the Salt Lake City area.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think back of when we met, and I'm sure it was probably at an estate sale. I'm sure I was also probably looking over the things that you already had in your bag. And then we might have just introduced ourselves. But it's probably been at least 3 or 4 years, right?
Say 3 or 4 years, because I think also there was a friend through Instagram that bought a globe from you, and that was another.
Oh, that's right.
I think I know. Yeah, it's because Jen bought that globe. So, and
Yeah.
I think it was we might have met in person and knew each other through Instagram, but didn't know that it was the same person. And then it's like, okay, now I know what it is.
Yeah, I think there's a nice little market here in the Salt Lake City area of I guess of people like us, right? Who buy and sell and collect, and we kind of look out for each other, I think, as well. There's probably around 5 or 6 or 7 of us that if we find something that doesn't fit what we normally buy, we'll certainly reach out to the other people in the group.
And I love that. I definitely didn't have that in Jersey. So, but it is nice because when I see everyone in line at an estate sale, it's the pressure isn't exactly on. I mean, we all have our things that cross over and whatever, but it's not like you're
right
worried that I'm going to get body checked by everybody.
Exactly. Well, speaking of New Jersey, I think that's kind of where you got your start, right? What was your influence, or who was your influence, and how'd you get started in collecting?
So yeah, I grew up in New Jersey. I was born there, and my grandparents, my mom's parents, were the ones that really got me started. So he was Army engineer, and they lived all over the world and collected things. Live in Turkey and Germany and all over
Wow.
and so their house was an amalgamation of all of that. So growing up, in our house, we had old things, but not like, it felt like a old museum.
Really? Cool.
So, and then I would go to estate sales with my grandmother more often than not, and just go, I didn't even really fully understand what I was doing at the time. But I was like, this is cool. This is a camera. I always remember that there was like a Brownie camera that I got, but I just was so fascinated by it. And they always really stoked my interest with everything old. And that's really where it got started.
Now, was that Brownie Camera? Was that kind of the first thing that kind of just, inspired you to say, "Hey, this is cool. It's old, but it's cool." And, you know, uh,
Yeah, I think that was one of many things, but that's always the one that like sticks out in my memory, and like the little flash bulbs. Having my dad explain to me that at one point you only got one flash per bulb, and I was like, I mean,
that's
we didn't
crazy.
have phones at the time, but or barely even digital cameras, but it's still you're like, what? How does that even? And uh, but I mean, I would buy like a stack of old Life magazines,
Yeah.
and be fascinated by how every other page was a smoking ad or a liquor ad.
Right. Exactly.
And I didn't really realize what I would that I was interested in it. I wouldn't have said up until college that I was like, I liked antiques. I wouldn't have been able to connect the two. It was
Right.
just didn't. And then it got bad or good, whatever you want. So,
Right, exactly. So, thinking back to when you were a little kid and you kind of got started with that Brownie camera,
mhm.
when as an adult did it kind of turn into something that, hey, I think I can do something with this?
I know exactly when it happened because it was I was in college in Philly,
Okay.
which really 20 minutes from where I grew up in New Jersey.
Yep.
It's right on the border. And I was dating a girl at the time who liked vintage clothing,
Okay.
which at the time, and hilarious to think, but I didn't really even understand it. I just didn't didn't even know like where to go to get those kind of things. But she
Right.
found a flea market, and it's this massive flea market that I miss all the time, but it's around the Eastern State Penitentiary, which is this huge uh, prison turned museum, and
Okay.
like 3 or 4 city block. It might even be more than that, but a 4 by 4 by 4
Yep.
around, and the entire outside of it uh, is a flea market. There's like a couple hundred vendors, and it was
Wow.
yeah, that was fun. So I went to that with her, and then I can even remember like the exact side of the building I was on. It happened. Such a good find, but it was a box of jewelry that the guy had it all in little individual baggies, and I said, how much is it? And this was another thing. Like I didn't know that I knew these things,
Right.
but I knew about silver from my grandpa metal detecting, and so
Okay.
like, it all kind of came together. And but I was like, there's a bunch of silver stuff in here, and I know that's worth. I don't know how much, but worth money.
Right.
And he said like $1 or 50 cents a piece, and I said the thing that is like what's a fateful thing? How much do you want for all of it?
Oh, man. Yeah.
What I say, no. But and I think it was $10, and I took it to one of the jewelry places, which like the cash for gold essentially kind of places.
Right.
And I think I got there ended up being a bunch of gold in there, and
Oh,
it ended up being it was like $500. So it's a pretty good like even now I'd be really
that's a good flip.
I was like, oh, I don't this is so much more fun and easy and and enjoyable than any other job. So
Job.
great. So I
That was
that
your moment.
moment, yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and I think, obviously a lot of people on Instagram, obviously know Turn Treasure.
yeah,
Primarily, they know you as buying and selling jewelry,
yeah.
right? And so
Mhm.
obviously that's how you got your start there.
Yep.
But then, and I certainly think I'm, right here. This is one
There
of
it
the
is.
one of the rings that I got from you.
Uh-huh.
So is it really since that moment have you've been out looking for jewelry?
Yeah, I think that really was the that was that was it because then it was like when's the next flea market?
Right.
And and I again I'd gone to garage sales and things and
Sure.
enjoyed because in New Jersey they're always really they're usually really good. You know, you can, I feel like garage sailing in Utah is a little harder than
Yeah.
just a little more sparse, but like out there, it's like a neighborhood has a garage sale, and it's not like 3 houses, it's like 40 houses in a row, or
Wow.
and and a little older, obviously, or a lot older, I guess, than Utah, uh, but then yeah, it was just going to markets and yard sales, and then starting to go back to estate sales, and doing all that, and it's been ever since. So
Yeah. Well, that's really cool, and that's a neat story of how you got started there. So, kind of thinking of that. So, obviously, you went from New Jersey, and you eventually ended up here in Salt Lake City.
Mhm.
When did you kind of start, in a sense, your business to where you're on Instagram now, you're on Facebook, and maybe I'm not sure. I can't remember if you did flea markets or anything like that yourself, to where you started to sell.
Yeah, so back in Philly, I started the Instagram there,
Okay,
and started selling. Well, I was selling to a dealer at an antique shop back in Philly,
got it.
in Jersey, but when I was living there, and he would buy a lot of stuff from me, and started to build a rapport. And he was kind of like my mentor for everything, and also funded the addiction, you know. But he
Right.
also, I'm sure,
Yeah.
really great with it too. But um, then I got the Instagram, and the girl I was dating at the time in college, who is from Salt Lake and is here now, that we moved out here, but we're good friends now. Um, she she told me, to get an Instagram, and to try it on there, and so I did that, and I do remember specifically her saying, "You're never going to be able to make all your money off of just selling through Instagram." I'm like, it's a different time too. It's changed so
Right. Instagram was different back then. Yeah.
years, but it really is. So, so that was that. I did a couple flea markets out there, and then I've done the urban flea market out here a couple times, but we usually just stick to the jewelry stuff now. It's a little easier to load in and out, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an easy thing to ship. It's an easy thing to package up and send out as well.
yeah, that was probably another reason that I really stuck with it, is because I never got the handle on shipping out anything big, and would always, when I sold on eBay when I started, like, would always end up spending more on shipping than whatever they paid for the
Yeah.
object, because just so, yeah, it's nice and easy. There's no guesswork. You're just like, it's $4 and that's it. So
You were telling me once just you were telling me a story about one of your trips to buy some stuff. I think it was to Las Vegas, where you
mhm.
had one of your biggest hauls of all time.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So that was actually a lady that, in a very weird um, lining up of things, a lady that I bought things from on eBay. She sold some rings on there, and she sold a big group of them for pretty cheap. And I messaged her and said, "Hey, do you have anything else?" Because these were all like new old stock from the '80s, so they were unworn. And she said, "Oh, I have so much more. Like, I don't even." So it was. She's like, one of her relatives had uh, kind of storage unit, and it was the closed out stock from a
Wow.
store from the '80s. I think it was in one of the casinos, actually, but
Really?
it wasn't souvenirs. It was jewelry. But it ended up. She said, "There's so much that I couldn't ship it. There's thousands of pieces." And we talked, and she said, I said, "I'm not that far."
Right.
So, like, and it worked out that I think my mom was going to be in Vegas that next weekend, and we were in. But I mean, it was within 2 days. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in Vegas. Do you want to come down?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So we got just bags and bags and bags of stuff, and it was all like '80s earrings that were inlaid with shell, and
Right.
kind of wild and crazy stuff, but stuff that's also sold well. Nothing worth a ton of money, but it's so much stuff that it was worth it.
It certainly made sense. I'm sure you've made a nice little return on that.
Yeah, and it's like it's a long-term thing too, where it's like a couple bucks every now and then. So yeah.
Well, now thinking of jewelry, obviously, like, the ring that I have is a Native American ring. What do you like the most, or what do you kind of look for when you're looking for jewelry? Because obviously, it's vintage that you're searching for, but is there a type that you like?
Yeah, for me, like for my own collection, I really like the 20s, and the deco kind of jewelry, and the Gatsby stuff is the kind of the most generally relatable thing. But also like giant rings that are obnoxious a little bit, but like absurd, that I kind of collect those for myself. That some of them I don't wear because it's probably hazardous to my own health. If I scratch my head and knock myself out, so do it. But so those are trying to show it to you.
That's good.
So this one is carved jade from China. That one's probably 20s or 30s, and it's silver. But the guy told me it was hammered pewter. So, and then this one is a Navajo turquoise ring, but I mean, it's so absurdly thick and huge. And then this one's stuck on my finger. Is 60s, but it's another jade one, and it's carved really worn down and kind of crazy giant one. So those are fun, but I love anything unique and odd in that kind of way.
Yeah, and you seem to come across I guess you classify it like biker rings, those types of things that you've found as well.
Yeah, and those are your rings probably more similar in the makeup of what the Mexican biker rings from like the 40s look like, where it's like a base and then it has two medallions on the side. I don't think I have one. I usually sell them really fast, so I usually don't have many around. But and then it has an emblem on the front for the most part. So
I think it's very interesting. How much jewelry do you think you have right now in your house? Any idea?
One or two things. Yeah, a lot, an excessive amount. So are you talking about my own collection, or are you talking about
just in general? Yeah, just like everything, or your own collection as well as what you've bought and you're looking to sell.
Yeah. So I tried to be good about saying, like, I'm not going to keep a lot of stuff for myself. But I do try to keep I don't just keep like regular things for myself. If it's something like I've never seen this,
gotta be special.
I'll never. Yeah, I'm trying to like these ones. So this guy, that's a 1900s devil.
Oh yeah,
Green Man kind of devil thing, and
that is very interesting.
I've never found another.
Looking
on any other example of it, and but it looks like something that was made more than once. Maybe not mass produced, but there may be one. But it's one of those that I'm like, that's never gonna find that again. So that I try to keep for myself. But in the house, there's a lot. There's shelves of things in the basement. There's when I go through organizing and separating, and we keep the costume stuff separate from the night. And there's one of those, like the storage bins, but the extra long storage bin that you store your Christmas tree in, kind of thing. And that one is currently starting to mountain off with the broken costume jewelry.
Oh no! So you've got that. You've got thousands of pieces.
Oh yeah. 10. Well, 10's probably 1,000.
Oh wow, that's pretty incredible.
Per piece, then definitely, yeah. So. Excessive.
Yeah, that's but hey, you know what? I mean, that's what you do, and that's what you're looking for. That's your niche, and people look to you to be able to find those special items.
Yeah. It's I don't mind it. So
yeah, exactly. I think you kind of live in the downtown area of Salt Lake in a vintage house. And you've got it, you've got it decorated with a lot of different types of items. What are the other types of items that you like?
I enjoy. I used to bartend and still do, but not anywhere, just for private events and
Yep.
stuff. But, old barware. I really like doing old barware. A little harder to do in Salt Lake, but you still find it sometimes.
You'll find it.
Yeah, and I love any of that. And in fact, I found it before I knew I liked it. I found it in Jersey, and there's so many pieces that I'm like, why did I get rid of that on that? And so right behind me, it's a little
Yeah. Nice
um,
little setup there.
so everything's reorganized right now because of the Christmas tree that is still up. But that's I like the old decanters
Yeah, I love those.
and any of the old barware. That's is it show? I guess it's showing up in reverse, or no, it's not for you,
No,
right?
it looks,
Oh,
we
so
can,
the Duckworth thing is actually a Spanish. I can't remember if it's from Spain or Mexico, but that's a flavor extract company, and that's like a early 1900s sign. So that would be for like a soda jerk,
yeah.
like that. But it, all kind of lines up. Any barware, anything weird, odd. There's
I think
more.
I've certainly seen some weird and odd things, but I think you've got some taxidermy as well.
Yeah, a couple pieces. Nothing too crazy. I was gonna say this guy's probably
Oh
a
yeah.
little weird right now. 'Cause but again, it's not like nothing high quality. We have a bunch of the pheasants that
Yeah.
sit around. I have a goose somewhere in the basement that's got its arms outstretched, and a bobcat head, and a jackalope with the fur rotted, or not rotted, but it's fallen off, so it looks like a zombie. That one I got from Jacqueline, who has Copper Hive.
Oh yeah.
Finds I bought quite a few from her, but nothing. It's just things I'm like, that's weird. I love that. So
Well,
yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to the jewelry as well. That even just looking at your house, I mean, you kind of like that, from that Art Deco to that, to that early 19th,
Yeah,
1900s.
great.
Yeah.
The deco is definitely my favorite stuff. Art Nouveau too.
Yeah.
That stuff's a lot harder to find, but yeah.
Well, kind of going back to your girlfriend in Jersey who was looking at vintage clothing.
Mhm.
I assume now that you also like vintage clothing. I've certainly seen you pick some vintage clothing and such. And I also know that you have a very creative side to yourself. You've got a little bit of well, I don't know if it's a theater background, but you're kind of
That's what
in
I was in school for in Philly was theater. So
yeah. So you've got that background. Has kind of the clothes collecting that you've done or the clothes that you've buying been influenced by your theater background or vice versa?
probably yeah, both ways. So IMC at a bar on a lot of weekends. Hence my
Yep.
horse, and it's called Prohibition, and it's a 20s themed bar.
Okay.
So don't mind having the excuse to buy, old suits for that. And I'm a little smaller than the average guy now, but it works out for the old clothing.
Yeah, for the old clothes.
Kind of 40s suit, and I don't have to do anything to it, and
Yeah.
that's great. But yeah, so I bought definitely have a collection of older clothing that a lot of I really love the 30s, especially for men's.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Like the ties and all of those types.
well, it's not like any guy just had one tie,
Exactly.
like you go in and buy one, but these kind of
Oh yeah.
so this one is
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
and my favorite part about it with the masks and the lamp, but it says on the back there, "Wine, Women, and Song" is the title of the design.
Yep.
So these kind of weird scrolled ties. I don't know if you've ever seen these before, but I had one of these, and someone Mayberry, Rachel, had posted one that she wanted to get at a sale, but then she showed the guy who had the tie the secret of it, and then the guy wanted to keep it, which, you know, what are you gonna do? But if you read, oh, you know what? You
Wait.
gotta read that way because it's backwards. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
So if
Oh,
you
yeah,
read,
yeah, yeah.
and they both say that,
Oh, they do, don't they?
yeah. And I had one, and I just thought it was a weird. It's like someone got creative, and then it was
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, that's it. But
that's pretty cool.
and that's from the 40s and 50s, and I just thought that's so funny that you always have this preconceived notion of everyone's very proper and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guys walking into work that were wearing ties. So
Well, that's yeah, those are cool, and I, you know, that era of clothing is really cool as well. And there's not a lot of people that, you know, that kind of collect that era. I think there's a lot of people now that are collecting, you know, really just, you know, T-shirts and things from the, you know, the 60s and the 70s and the 80s.
yeah,
You see a lot of that, but not when you're really going back to that to those early eras.
yeah, and when it is that stuff, it's mostly the workwear. Like this is a new shirt, but it's the chin strap kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this one's by Polo. It's not, but it's done well, and it's a reproduction. But the real shirts of these are they go for insane
Yeah.
money, and they want that stuff, which I enjoy because then I can trade that out, and then people don't want the formal. They don't want the tuxedos, and I'll take all the tuxedos. So
Right.
it's nice because there's less, competition for it. So
Well, in your years of you know, of picking and going to estate sales and things like that, is there an item that kind of stands out as being, you know, really unique, or one that you know, you came across and you thought, wow, this is just crazy.
okay, so I went to a flea market in New Jersey when I was living in Philly, and it was right off the train stop, so 15-minute little train
Yep.
ride across the bridge, and um, I went to that market, and a lady once again had three of the big folding tables filled with. She'd put everything out in individual little boxes, all perfectly set up and Tetrised, so it was like perfect and
Right.
bucked up. And there was a couple little silver things. Nothing. I asked her how much she wanted for one thing, and she said 50 cents. And I said, so how much do you want for every?
All of it.
And it ended up filling up like three of the filing boxes, mainly because of the boxes, the little
Right.
jewelry boxes. But she said she had no idea what she wanted for it, and I like, would you take $100 for it? And she was like, oh, okay, which was like shocked and excited.
Right.
I was like, really? But and then as we were putting it in, I realized how much it was. It's like, I'm gonna give you more for like, that wasn't enough, even though you were happy with that. It's
Yeah.
not. But I ended up talking with that lady and going to her house in Haddonfield, which is one of the really old towns in Jersey. I think
Yeah.
it's founded in this late 1600s, early 1700s, one of those. And her house what is ancient and wonderful. Her name was Carol, and she let me come over, and we talked, and uh, I ended up buying some things just because every room was filled with
All the stuff.
amazing stuff. Her dad owned an airfield in New Jersey, and she had pictures that were staying in the family, fortunately, but of him and Amelia Earhart
Oh, wow.
signed, and then ones with Lindbergh that were signed, and just
That's really cool.
amazing stuff. So the thing that I got from her, that a jacket that was hanging up on a coat rack, and it's a red quilted parka, and it's covered from top to bottom in old military patches.
Oh,
So
wow, that is cool.
yeah, so there was Navy, Air Force, and like everything. And I just was like,
I've got to have it.
this is amazing. This is like there's no other one as cool, or I've never seen anything like this. So I asked her if she'd sell it. She's like, "Do you really want to buy that?" Yes, I really want to leave. So I don't even remember. I think I gave her probably $100 for it. But she told me that she made that parka. And it even had her name,
Yep.
little old stitched in labels that
Yep.
you get with your, and she made the parka, and then she covered it in military patches that she got from guys she dated while she was on base. It was in the Air Force, and I was like, this is never. I said, I'll never sell this ever. Just so you know, this is
This
that
is
one
this is
day.
staying in my collection.
Yeah, this is it's such a the way she told it with that little like they were from boys that I met. And this, I was like, oh my gosh, Carol, that's fantastic. So there's a lot of patches on here.
I was gonna say, and it's cool when you find items like that that do have a backstory
Yeah,
to them. It
that,
just makes them all the more special, I think.
definitely. And we always have we can sometimes you can piece together from estate sales, but usually you don't get the full story. It's really not.
Exactly. Well, I want to be sure. I mean, is there anything else that's part of your collection that you want to show us today?
Another thing I wear that doesn't get worn a lot anymore, though I feel like they're coming back, is cufflinks. So this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So that's just one little tray, and the ones in the bottom corner there with the skull and crossbones on them.
Yep.
I thought they were fake when I saw them, but they're real. They're real Victorian ones, and they have garnet eyes. I think one's missing, but they were just incredible. So
yeah, those are fantastic, and you just don't see cufflinks like that anymore at all. Well, I mean, it was back in the day. I mean, everybody wore cufflinks, right?
Yeah, for the most part, that was just the thing. So it's all the tie bars, all the. Let's see. I don't know if all of these are filled, but and this is again, it's my personal little collection that I keep, and I didn't bring it all down, or else we'd be here for another.
Yeah, but I think I certainly believe that you have tens of thousands of jewelry items within your house.
Yes, yeah. So that's another thing I really love to collect, and it's the stuff with the story, like that's always the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of times I think you're kind of like me, and I've said this to a lot of my guests, is that we really don't know what we're looking for.
Yeah,
you really don't know what you're looking for until you find it.
Yes. And the moment that you say what you're looking for and say what you don't want, then something in the category of what you don't want is exactly better than anything. Like, I don't collect porcelain. Okay, well then, yeah, but if you have a Victorian like tea service that's got horoscopes on it that's hand painted, I'm like, okay, well I'll buy that, but that should have told you, because then
But I didn't want that.
Exactly. But yeah, you're right. We don't. It's like you see it and you're like, that's what I want. And whatever.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to go out and search out these items, and you're going into somebody's house and you have no idea what they have, but you come across something and it's just like, wow, that is just really cool.
Yeah, you never know. So yeah, definitely my favorite.
Well, Lucas, before we go today, I want to make sure that people can find you. How can people, or what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
So in Salt Lake City, we have 2 places where our stuff is sold, not exactly booths, but we have vintage cufflinks and tie bars and suit accessories at a bespoke tailoring shop downtown called Taylor Cooperative.
Okay.
And we sell through them, with them, and they're awesome. And that's our really curated kind of stuff.
Yep.
As far as that goes. And then for our kind of more costume jewelry or just anything like that, we have a spot in Prohibition, that bar, which is a little outside of downtown, but we usually sell costume jewelry through there, and we're bringing more in. They closed and opened with the pandemic. So we're
Yep.
getting that back up and running. And then Instagram. So you have @TurnTreasure is the Instagram.
Okay.
That's where we sell the majority of stuff. Have a website. Lou's gonna kill me. I gotta look up the name of the website, but it's Turn Treasure Vintage. But you can do it through the Instagram, and those are the main ways. We're doing a market in right before Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Downtown, and we usually don't do markets, but that one will be fun. So,
So I think primarily people do reach out to you. I mean, you have quite the following on Instagram, and like I said, I think people, when it comes to jewelry, they certainly know to come to you and to find the items that they're looking for. So, I think that's really cool. Lucas, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure to have you on. I always like to learn about what everybody is collecting, what people are looking for, and like I said, I know when it comes to jewelry, that's what people are doing. So thanks again for being here.
Of course, thank you. Had a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Hey, keep collecting.
I definitely will.
All right, take care. See ya.
Well, there you have it. We have wrapped up another episode of The Collectors. I want to be sure and thank my guest today, Lucas Kappler of Turn Treasure Vintage. And I think Lucas is probably one of the premier collectors and buyers and sellers of vintage jewelry, probably anywhere in the country. Anything from rings to cufflinks to tie tacks. I think it's just fantastic, the different things that he has. So if you're looking for something, be sure and reach out to Lucas. And again, I also want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like today's episode, be sure and hit that like button down below. And then go ahead and share this out with your friends and family. And subscribe if you haven't done that as well. And be sure and join us next time on The Collectors as we travel the country in search of another unique collector and collection. Take care and keep collecting.